This is the old Mount Hood Loop Highway. It was built in the early 1920s. Before that, for about 70 years, the only way to get across the Cascades around Mount Hood was the old Barlow Road, which was never really a real road. It was more of a trail, a wagon trail, you know, with ruts and everything. So this is the first proper road that was built around Mount Hood. The old Barlow Road connected basically Portland, Sandy, Government Camp, and then via Ty Valley to the Dalles. Whereas this relatively newer Mount Hood Loop Highway connected Sandy with Government Camp, but then instead of going toward the Dalles, it went to Hood River. Essentially, it followed the same route that today's highways 26 and 35 are following. And in fact, today's highways 26 and 35 covered up much of the old highway. There are basically two remaining parts that are still relatively intact of the old highway. There's about 2.5 miles maybe here, Kiwanis Camp Road, which is just slightly west of Government Camp. And then on the east side of Government Camp, right after Highway 35 starts, there's a 2-mile segment of the old highway connecting the Pioneer Woman's Grave and Barlow Pass. Kiwanis Camp Road takes off of modern Highway 26 and just maybe 3 miles east of Rhododendron, and then it turns off left here. It is also known as Road 39. This is Highway 26 today, and Kiwanis Camp Road. Construction lasted for maybe about 4 years or so, maybe even 5, between 1919 and 1924 when it was completed. At first it was just a dirt road and it was only 16 feet wide. And then very soon, the next year they improved it. In 1925, they put down a layer of some kind of oil on top to dampen the dust. They called it oiled macadam. And then the very next year they started widening the road and improving it and paving it. So by about 1930, it had widened from 16 to 24 feet. And in 1937, President Roosevelt actually drove up this road to inaugurate Timberline Lodge. In fact, it could also be said that this road was used to build Timberline Lodge. The old highway, which is now called Kiwanis Camp Road, will survive because it leads not only to Kiwanis Camp. The Kiwanis are organizing a youth children's camp here, but also because it leads to several significant trails on Mount Hood, one of them being the Paradise Park Trail, which heads off in that direction, and then there's a few more. This is the Zigzag River, and the Paradise Park Trail crosses a wooden bridge over it, and then it heads into the forest there and up the hill, and it ends up on the west side of Mississippi Head. And here is Kiwanis Camp. And less than a quarter mile up from Kiwanis Camp is another trailhead, and that is to Hidden Lake. There is an actual hidden lake, and it is about 2 miles from here. along the trail, about halfway up the mountain. And then another 2.5 miles higher up, you hit the Pacific Crest Trail, and you find yourself about halfway between Big Zigzag and Little Zigzag canyons, and from there you can make it to Timberline quite easily. Kiwanis Camp Road then dead ends right here by this enormous cliff. The hidden lake trail goes up above that cliff somewhere, and over here it appears to be like a dead end and a parking lot, which is actually also a trailhead for the Little Zigzag Falls trail. This is the Little Zigzag River, and the trail starts here. Little Zigzag River is very tranquil and nice, and this is a very cool spot. Even in the hottest summer's days, it is very nice and cool here. This Little Zigzag Trail keeps on going a little beyond the falls, but then pretty soon it sort of just gradually disappears. However, if you keep slogging and going through the forest up the hill, you will most likely end up either in Little Zigzag Canyon or in Sand Canyon. Those two canyons merge into one. And in fact, most people that get lost on Mount Hood, especially in the winter when they go skiing a little too far out of bounds, they end up either in Little Zigzag or Sand Canyon, and eventually it all funnels down this trail right here. So if you end up in this situation, just keep going down. You will end up on Kiwanis Camp Road. Just pray that you're not in neighboring Big Zigzag Canyon, which is slightly to the northwest of here, because that one is very tough. That's a death trap, so stay out of Big Zigzag. But Little Zigzag or Sand Canyon will eventually bring you back down to Kiwanis Camp Road and eventually Highway 26. Little Zigzag Falls are only 5 minutes from here, but if you ever get lost in those woods there beyond Timberline, it'll take you hours to get here, so it's not recommended for anybody to go this way, all the way down here. But in case you do get lost, it's good to know that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. So Kiwanis Camp Road right now dead ends here. But in the old days, before modern day Highway 26 was built, it continued here. Right now the passage is blocked with these rocks, but you can keep on going up the hill. And this is what remains of the old Mount Hood Loop Highway here. So from the place where Kiwanis Camp Road ends, it's about 2.5 miles down the road, down Kiwanis Camp Road, to get back to Highway 26. That's a lot of walking if you get lost. But only about a 1/4 mile or less up this slight incline is Highway 26, right up there on the hill, if you follow the old abandoned road. Anyway, very shortly you come across a fence like this, and a wall, and buckled roadway. Right under this buckled roadway is a tunnel. It's a very narrow, tall tunnel made for horses. Let's check it out. The tunnel is actually part of the Pioneer Bridle Trail, and it goes a little bit down and then under the roadway. There's the roadway, and there's the tunnel.
The horses that were used in World War I came from the Eastern Oregon ranches, and they came right through here. This was the Bridal Pail Trail. Now, that was 1918. 1924, they were going to put this road in. He says, you know, we really ought to fix it so the next war, the horses could get through. I'm not kidding, that's what it was. And during World War II, there were a couple of old-timers that thought they ought to have a cavalry charge, but they never had one. So anyhow, when they built this thing, it had to be 1 horse wide, and they made it 1 horse and rider high. And that was it. So it's quite a tunnel in there.
If we follow Pioneer Bridle Trail through the tunnel and all the way slightly up the hill, then down the hill again, it'll bring us all the way down to rhododendron eventually. But if we follow this old highway here, whatever's left of it, slightly up the hill, it will eventually lead us to Highway 26. And when we cross Highway 26, we'll end up on Laurel Hill, the historic Laurel Hill where that steepest chute was located. On modern Highway 26, we're warned that there is a historic marker ahead. And it is here. It's Laurel Hill. And if we follow this trail and the steps up Laurel Hill, we'll get to the steep chute that the pioneers had to negotiate. At the top of the stairs, the steps, we find not only the steep chute, there's a trail that goes to the steep chute, but also this paved thing is actually Highway 20, the old Mount Hood Loop Highway. And it continues up that way toward Government Camp, and this way it sort of dead ends because Highway 26, modern day Highway 26, crosses right over it and blasted its way right through it. And there's a steep rocky chute that the pioneers descended. It's so rocky mainly because the soil was eroded with all those trees that were being dragged behind the wagons and so on. So then they came down here to the level of where the old highway is, right? But that wasn't the end of them, the end of it for them. Then they had to continue going down this way, even further down into that ravine over there. What little remains of the old highway here, this is where President Roosevelt drove up, remember, gets even smaller and smaller and narrower, but it's still perfect for a bicycle ride. Now, if only they would build us a bridge, a pedestrian bridge that would connect Laurel Hill with the other road, the rest of the road up to Government Camp, and another one down this road to connect with where we just were, Kiwanis Camp Road. That would be nice.